What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
In Conversation.
Shaka Laka Laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 133 for the Molokai Cops. I am the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And today we are talking to Doomslayer, and the reason we have picked that for the title was just that we get towards the end of the discussion, and as always, towards the tail end with the non-wrestling questions, it starts to break down and just gets a bit ridiculous, if we're being honest. It wouldn't be caught in conversation if we had it any other way, and there was a movie he mentioned, I believe, what was it called? Hard Ticket to Hawaii? Did I get that right?
Yes, I think that was it, yes.
But basically, he sent us a clip that we talked about in this episode you're about to hear, and that was a quote from the video that he sent us regarding that film. But we thought it was catchy at the time, but
yeah.
Nova, if you'd like to quickly do the song and match of the week, we'll explain why we've picked those, and then we're going to jump as quick as we can into this conversation, because we've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Doomslayer, and much like we mentioned in the previous episode, by the time the guys hear this, with Torture, and we've mentioned it in episodes before that, and we're going to mention it in episodes after this. Like, we're just enjoying these conversations. Like, this, month, 2 month stretch of conversations that we've had in general have been so fun. And obviously for the entire month of October, when this is dropping on the 27th of October, we did double headers. It was meant to be, in celebration for my 30th birthday, which by the time this comes out, I will have been 30 for almost a full week. Good Lord. But, we're really enjoying these combos, and we're just pumping them out, and they're just, honestly, not to go too, deep or too off topic before we transition into this conversation, but both of us with the health issues and the mental health issues, and as stressful as life is, these conversations really lift our fucking spirits.
Yeah, it's a nice little
when we do
away.
these, and really enjoyed it. But if you'd like to give us the song and match of the week, as always, you will explain the song, I'll explain the match, and then we can jump into this thing.
Alrighty, so your song of the week for episode 133 was just Detroit Rock City by Kiss, and your match of the week for episode 133 was Team WCW versus NWO Wolfpack versus NWO Hollywood War Games match, WCW Fall Brawl 1998. Woo!
I stitched you the fuck up with that information.
That was very long. I hope I didn't butcher that.
No, you nailed that.
Woo!
I should have made you do that in your best ringing voice. The match of the week is... Fuck this, I quit.
Your match of the week is WCW versus NWO Wolfpack versus NWO Hollywood War Games match, WCW Fall Brawl 1998!
Touche.
That was wild. Hey, I did not butcher that. Excuse me, that deserves I think this is the button. Thank you very much.
If you'd like to explain why you picked that song for this episode with Doomslayer.
So we got into tattoo talk with Doomslayer, and he actually has a Gene Simmons tattoo mixed with, I think,
Alice
correct
Cooper.
me if I'm wrong, Alex Cooper. So I was like, so it was a mashup tattoo. So I was like, oh, yes, let's go Kiss. And one of my favourite Kiss songs, probably super generic, but Detroit Rock City.
I said this to you off air, and I'm going to say it again. I love Kiss. I went through a Kiss phase when I was 19, 20. I fucking dyed my hair blue, black, the whole
16.
shebang. But as much as I love Kiss, and as much as I love this song specifically, I cannot hear this song without thinking of the scene from Molokai.
Okay, yes, I do see that. Okay.
It's semi tainted, but it's in the best way possible. Especially when you're watching it through the movie, and it's got the fucking surround sound and it's just it's a banger of a tune. But yeah, that's why Nova picked that match, and the reason I picked this match was
that song.
Pick that song.
Womp to you, sir.
Anyway, the reason Nova picked that song was what she just said, he had the tattoo. And I picked this match because, as we'll cover in this conversation, and as Doomslayer himself has covered in previous conversations, he was more of a WCW guy than a WWF guy at the time. So I basically just kind of went through the Rolodex and tried to find some NWO stuff, and then I tried to find some Sting stuff, and then this has Sting in the match as NWO Wolfpack Sting, and we've had some very Sting-heavy episodes. Obviously, last week, by the time this drops, we had a Sting for the match of the week. Next week, when Johnny the Joker drops, there's going to be some sort of Sting match. I haven't decided on that one yet, but it's going to be Sting again. But yeah, just very WCW heavy, and I thought this is a great one because it's, you know, when NWO were transitioning and they had two subversions of it, and it's a War Games match, and we're creeping up on Survivor Series War Games next month.
Yeah.
I originally did have a Goldberg match, but turns out we've already used that specific match. It was DDP versus Goldberg from Halloween Havoc.
I'm pretty sure I picked that one.
That was all the way back at episode 20, our Q&A episode.
Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't me then.
That was, I think you still did pick it.
I did pick a DDP
it was our Q&A episode. The only Q&A full episode we've done.
Okay.
All the way back in 2021.
Okay, could have been then. Okay.
It was October-ish. It was just before we got married, so we went with that because it was Halloween Havoc and it was Halloween themed, and I was like, oh, let me do the same thing, and it has already been picked. So the match of the week was Team of WCW versus NWO versus NWO. NWO versus NWO. Wolfpack and Hollywood.
Great minds think alike.
Great minds think alike. But that's my TED Talk for the day, and that's why I picked that match. Was Doomslayer's a WCW fan. I also love me some WCW. Obviously, I watched it after the fact, but the amount of DVDs and compilation videos and stuff that I've got over on my shelf is pretty cool. But Nova Lee, you know the drill. I'm going to press this button again, but officially this time. So, ladies and gentlemen, get hype. Put your hands together.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Launceston, Tasmania, Doomslayer!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Doomslayer, formerly El Hijo del Doomslayer. We've actually met before. I say met, but we did a Reaction Wrestling Wednesday with DPC over on the What If It's Cool YouTube channel. And of course, this is my wife, Nova Lee, who you've been talking to. So, Nova, Doomslayer, Nova.
Hi.
In this weird...
Hello, nice to meet you.
This
Nice to meet you too.
I've pointed it out a couple of times in the last, few episodes. I'm like, this digital age is so weird because there's been so many people where I've talked to semi-regularly, to be honest, in Messenger and Instagram and stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm talking to them on a podcast. I'm like, nice to meet you-ish, but yeah, it's not good to talk to you again regardless.
I had the evolution of that. Yesterday, I've talked to Daniel a couple of times on podcasts and one with you. And then I met him in person yesterday when I worked at Alpha Pro Wrestling.
Yes, dude. I honestly, I feel like by the time I finally get down there, it's just going to be like a family reunion because it was like that with the Cooters and all them when they came up to Canberra. It was just like, hey, and it wasn't until the end of the night we're like, fuck, this is technically, this is the first time we're meeting and this is weird because we've known each other for a year now.
Yeah, I went to England 8 years ago or something. And I was in a bit of a community of different video game podcasts and stuff at the time. And I don't really want to go to England, but I know a lot of people that I've been friends with for years over there. So I went to England for 3 weeks and just did not the touristy stuff. I went to the towns that you wouldn't go to England for the first time and go to these places, but I went to all these places and hung out and I slept at one of my friends on his couch for a week, and then I was on to the next town and saw the next person for a couple of days and just this big lap around England, just meeting people that I've only ever known digitally. So
that's cool.
That's the beauty of podcasts.
Yeah.
But so you did say to us that because you have done a lot of podcasts and stuff yourself to try and throw you some curveballs, there will be some repeat questions, but you can give us an abridged version of them if you will. And I actually hit DPC up because this is almost going to be an unofficial part 2 to the conversation you did do with him, just because it's the most recent podcast I've seen of yours. And just yesterday, I hadn't rewatched our reaction yet, and I figured, well, because I was talking to you, I might as well sit down and rewatch the reaction we did. But yeah, so some of them might be a repeat. But yeah, for the most part, this is almost an unofficial continuation to the conversation you did do with Dan. But for just for the sake of people that listen to the show Doomslayer, we always do ask the same question first off for first-time guests. So just for the sake of it, what was your earliest wrestling memory, just to kind of break the ice for people that may not have listened to that conversation or other conversations?
Oh, I have all these different early memories. So it's like, there was the old VHSs that I would watch at a friend's place from like the early like WrestleManias, or was it my friend that had like those big chunky like those figures, those huge ones from back in the early 90s, or was it video games? Like one of my ones that got me into wrestling probably was that WrestleMania, the arcade game, the one that was on like Super Nintendo and Mega Drive.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that's probably the first thing, and Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler. I was like, this guy looks cool. He's got long black hair. He's got black and pink. That's different. And so I hadn't even watched him wrestle for years. I was like, oh, Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler because he looks cool in a video game.
I had a similar thing. Like there's not that much of an age gap, but there's a slight age gap between the two of us. And I was the same way. Like I kind of tuned in here and there during the Attitude Era, as a lot of people did. But it wasn't until like I think early 2003, 2004, where I started playing the PS2 games, and like I was like, oh man, this Rey Mysterio guy is cool. He's like a ninja or something. And then like fast forward going to a friend's house and like here's Rey Mysterio jumping off shit, and I'm like, oh my god, these are real people. And like for the longest time, the same thing. Like Ray was just like, he was my guy because he did all the flips and shit. And then it's like, oh, it's actually a thing.
The first time I saw Rey Mysterio was on Nitro, and he was unmasked. He was with the Filthy Animals or the No Limit Soldiers or something at that time. And I was like, this guy is just incredible. And then he went to WWE eventually, and he put on more size, and he's had the mask since then. So it's not the Rey Mysterio that sort of enthralled me at the time.
We've actually got a few questions a little bit later on about WCW in general. But at what point did you discover that Aussie wrestling existed? Because obviously living in Tasmania, you're obviously like TCW and that like amazing talent, and we've put it over plenty of times, but it's a pretty secluded area. So growing up and like getting into being a fan of the business, how did you discover that it existed within where you were?
There was an episode, like, you know, Monday Night Raw, so on a Tuesday here in Australia, and there was just one night I went to go watch Raw, and it wasn't on. I don't know if you remember this happening as well. We had Ozstar down here, which is Foxtel in the rest of Australia, but instead of Raw, they've just played some Australian wrestling thing. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I think I've looked it up and come since then. It was like some sort of super show. It was like maybe AWF and some people from other companies or something. It was like, this isn't Raw. What the hell is this? So that was the one thing where I'm like, I guess there's wrestling in Australia. And then the first time I paid any attention to wrestling in Australia was I was heavy into New Japan, and Kazuchika Okada was coming to Australia to wrestle at Melbourne City Wrestling.
Yes. We actually literally just talked about that show with Andy Coyne, who ring announced for that show. So this is all coming together. This is awesome.
I had friends that lived in Melbourne and wrestling fans. And he's like, do you see Okada's coming to Melbourne? I was like, yeah, let's go to that. And then like every month for just over a year, I think, well, from then pretty much up until COVID happened, I flew to Melbourne every month just to watch Melbourne City Wrestling with my friends.
So that was
and then I'd fly back home the next day.
It's like a 2.5 year stretch almost of doing that. That's impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Yeah. There was certainly a 12-month stretch where I went to every show, but from the Okada, there might have been a couple where I didn't come, but then I was pretty much there all the time. And now I'm traveling all the time to wrestle, so instead of watching it.
That's pretty cool. Come full circle. So my first question for you is, what was the deciding factor that got you into the business, and when did you decide you wanted to do it?
Well, I always wanted to do it, and TCW's been in Tasmania, obviously, for, I think, 12, over 10 years running shows, but then there was like 1 or 2 years where it was just training, so then they had wrestlers to be on the shows, and that come up in the newspaper, the local newspaper. It's like, oh, wrestling. But then my job was just the hours of my job meant that I could never join or train, or at least that was the excuse I used for about 8 years anyway, until oh my God, next month will be 5 years since I started training. And then just a couple of days ago was 4 years since I debuted. So once my job changed to a morning job, I had no excuse. I thought, well, I've got to do it now, because or else I'll get too old and I never would have known.
I think you're going to be that great example, because I often I'm not even 30 yet. I'll be 30 at the end of this month. And I've met people that are like, oh, I'm 33. Like, do I do it? I think you're honestly, like, I've used you as an example in Canberra for some of the guys, because you're in ridiculous shape, dude. And like people, like, I know that the popular one in wrestling is like DDP, just because, like, you know, WCW was the big thing and that. But like, you're almost like Australia's answer to that. Like, because like, I'm not going to say you're old, because like, you know, especially in this day and age, like the best wrestlers out there currently are nearing 50. Honestly, if you look at the current crop of WWE and AEW guys, like, yeah, there's some good young guys, but the ones in their prime are like mid 40s right now. Like, the business has changed.
You said our ages. You said I'm not that much older than you. I'm gonna be 40 next month, mate.
Hey, I mean, look, 10 years is 10 years, right?
Yeah, well, my wife is 10 and a half years younger than me, so yeah, we'll go with that.
You're only as young as you feel, I reckon.
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather used to say you're only as young as the woman you feel, which can be construed as a very creepy comment, but
Really?
I didn't want to say that one, but yeah, I know that too. Yeah, but after this
awesome.
year after the year I've had of so much wrestling this year, I'm feeling a little bit, but I'm gonna dial it back a little bit next year. So I've got another England trip for mainly as a holiday, but if I can wrestle, I'll try to a couple times. But so not booking any more trips up until, the plan is not to book any more flights until after England, so after April next year. I do have one more nightfall booking up in Brisbane in a few weeks, but apart from that, it'll just be the local shows.
Okay, so on that note, Extreme Capital Wrestling, keep the end half of your year clear.
There's just it's too hard to get to Canberra.
Yeah,
the flights
to
get there from Tasmania is crazy. So.
Like even from here, right? Like it's a 2-hour car trip, but because we have to do public transport, it's like 5 hours sometimes just to get there on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's just unnecessary.
Well, the Tasmanian mindset is something's like half an hour drives, and it's like, oh, don't worry about it, kind of thing. And to get to Hobart, it's like 2.5 hours, and we've got a show there next month. And it's like, oh my God, we've got to everything to book accommodation because nobody can drive 2.5 hours. You know, but, just used to everything being so close.
I'll let Nova ask her next question before I hijack this whole thing.
So my next question is, now when you were on What If It's Cool, you did mention you've hosted podcasts yourself. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Was this yesterday, or do you mean ages ago when I did the podcast?
So when you're on the podcast, you were talking about how you kind of just alluded to it at the start of the conversation as well, how you've hosted and been a part of other podcasts and stuff. So just.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I've listened to podcasts for such a lot, like, I don't know, how long a podcast's been around? Forever now. So I used to do, like, what can be my specialty thing that I do? Is like, me and one of my friends is really into, like, Asian films, like, Japanese, like, samurai films or Korean thrillers mainly. And then it's like, well, that's going to be our little niche, and then also video games and stuff as well. But then just from being on Twitter at the time, interacting with other people from different podcasts, and then these people would be a guest on these other podcasts, and then they'd be a guest on mine, and I'd be a guest on these ones and stuff. So just the random outlier from Australia that's mixing it up with all these English guys. So there was no official name for the there was no real podcast network, but it was a really cool time in podcasting for me anyway.
So that's kind of cool because it'll actually tie into the non-wrestling question when we get to the end of the conversation with all the cool films and stuff. So that's awesome. But again, as we said to you, this is almost an unofficial sequel to the What If It's Cool one, just because my ADHD brain, like, you were talking about this, and then right as Dan would answer a question, my ADHD brain goes, oh, but I want to hear more about that. So again, referencing it, which we did, as I said, I've recently watched it, and then we rewatched What Are Words by The Shirt. We rewatched the reaction we did as well last night, so it's just there. But you mentioned that you originally, obviously, El Hijo del Doomslayer, you you wore a mask, and it was technically a replica mask that you had, but you kind of did some DIY stuff to it, and just made it look more natural and more you. So my question is just, with the original mask design, once you were finished kind of, roughing it up and scruffing it up and making it look how you wanted it to look, was there any certain inspiration behind the final look for that mask? Or was it just...
No, not really. So I can't even think what the rest of... If I looked hard enough, I would find out whose it was a replica of. But I just took some scissors to it, cut some flappy bits off, and then I took it to a lady that does some of the outfits for some of the wrestlers locally. And I was like, I Googled lucha mask, and it's like, here's what lucha wrestling masks look like. Can you just turn this into something like any of them? Like, stick some fur on it, stick some ears, I don't care. Just make it anything than what it is. So she sewed some red dots on it and was like, got it back like weeks later. I'm like, is that okay, that's the best you could do? All right, I guess I'll go with this for a while. So it wasn't that great.
Well, there you go. Because I thought he's come up with the name Doomslayer and da-da-da-da. And I was like, no, he's just the lady. In a way, it kind of fell into place when you think about it. Like the red dots kind of makes you think of red eyes. I don't know. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I got like, all right, you're going to be a referee for a while, but you're going to wrestle as well, so you should probably wear a mask. Like, all right, the mask was the very first part of me as a wrestler. Okay, so what goes with this? All right, I went around to all the local salvo stores, like I went to so many of these secondhand city missions and stuff, to find. I was like, I've got to get some women's tight leather pants or stretchy pants to go with these, because I don't know where to buy these from otherwise. And so I found some, they lasted one match. And then I found another pair, they lasted one match. And then I was in Sydney for some reason and went to the underground market, the Paddy's Market.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I love Paddy's markets.
Then there's like that one store back in the corner was like the last spot in there. And it's like the sex clothes store. Are you familiar? With all the crazy lingerie, all the spikes, all the handcuffs.
I haven't been there since I was a child, so I wasn't actually allowed in that little store. But yes, I know kind of what you're talking about.
And then I found these pants in there, and they're like $25 a pair. And they were triple XL in Chinese sizes, so it was like perfect for like a medium. And I tried them on. It's like, I'm going to wrestle in these. So I bought like 4 pairs at once. And so all these $25 pants, and they going strong still. So they a bit stretched out over time, but then once I finally got some professional gear made by Dinky Dye, I got my black and pink tights, and now just debuted some shorts a few matches ago. So a couple months ago, I got wrestling in shorts now. So
shout out to Dinky, by the way. She's actually done a handful of gear of people that I know, and some people that are actually friends. I've actually designed gear very recently that Dinky created. I'm still waiting for said wrestler to like unveil them before I can be like, hey, check out Crossfire Graphics and fucking cheap plug and whatever else. But Dinky is supremely talented.
Yeah. And I've got like no design ability at all. So I just the pen and paper, and I was like, these are pants. It's like that side black, that side pink, hot pink, and my logo down that leg, and I think that's what they are. And it's pretty simple. They're like my name. I don't know, doesn't even thing across the arse of it. And then that was the tights. And then Jackson Parker, my nemesis in TCW, he's actually so great at graphic design. He was like, well, I want some shorts. I can't design them. Here's like a general idea. And then he whipped up a thing with a whole like color chart and just insane details. And then it got made up. It was crazy. You can see someone like draw up this design, and then you're wearing it sometime later. So shout out to Jackson Parker as well. That dog, that snake in the grass.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Backstabbing dog.
Fuck that guy. But
for stealing my TCW Northwest Championship. Bastard.
But you have mentioned in the past that you still do watch a fair amount of wrestling, but you don't really watch much of WWE. So with your Thunderwing finisher, which is obviously the pump handle powerbomb for people not familiar with it, how did that come to be if you hadn't seen that? Because obviously Rhea Ripley very famously does it now, but how did that particular move come to be added to your arsenal?
Well, I didn't really have any, I was doing the Dragon Sleeper, what's his name in New Japan? Sonata does the the Dragon Sleeper? I can't think. No Escape? Skull End. So I was a bit into Sonata. He's not the most thrilling wrestler at the time, or even now, I think. So I had a submission move, but I didn't have any big power move at all. And I was like, there's got to be like, it doesn't have to be something crazy, like some over-the-top move that can't do to everybody. And then I was like, I thought of like, who's like a generic wrestler that was not a huge star and just had like a pretty basic finishing move. And I was like, oh, Road Dogg did like the pump handle drop. That's nothing crazy. Why don't I do that? And so I was actually been doing it for a few matches before I realized that like Rhea Ripley was doing it. It's like, I thought I was being original. She has kind of a bit of a turn, and so they land like in a T shape to her body, I suppose. But yeah. So pump handle drop, pump handle bomb or whatever, Thunderwing.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So my next question for you, it's going back to What If It's Cool again. And I know this is an audio only podcast, so listeners won't actually get to see it. But this is an awesome way for them to be able to get to know you. So you've got a bunch of tattoos, and there's one that you showed on What If It's Cool, and this is where the question kind of came from. You've got some wrestling-related ones, some nerdy ones. What are some of your personal tattoos that you've got?
Like personal favourite tattoos?
Personal favourite, I should say. Yeah, tattoos that you've got.
I don't know. I did get like a shark that was covered over. So we do have a shark that's like my very first tattoo, which is buried underneath this microphone. So I've got the Bret Hart logo, and then I've got like Gene Simmons / Alice Cooper. So I like mashups, so I've got that going on there. But a lot of video games as well. I've got a mashup of Final Fantasy, like the Cactar character with Portal. So it's a Cactar going through the portal. And on the other one, I've got Sub-Zero. I feel like I'm 18 again. Oh, check out my tattoos. Sub-Zero, but it's got the flames behind it. I think Scorpion's better after Mortal Kombat, but I don't want to get like a yellow tattoo because it's not going to.
Dude,
statistically doesn't hold up as well.
Like I've only got 6 tattoos, and like I've got one for my dad, and it's meant to say Dad in red, and I've only had it for 6 years, so like it's decent age, but it's not super old, and it's currently looking pink. So I feel you on that. Yellow tattoos don't look the best, especially when they fade. That pops me though, because we had Giant Coyote on, and his favorite character has always been Sub-Zero. Mine's always been Scorpion. So currently, Miss Novalee sat on the fence with this one. So currently, I guess it's
kill both as the one tattoo.
so it's 2 to 1 to Coyote currently with Scorpion.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got Evil Dead, Neon Genesis Evangelion on my legs. I've got like a little tribal, I've got like a rooster / chook thing on the back of my shoulders. One of my mates, he passed away quite a while ago now, and his nickname was Chook, so I got that. I just got some random stuff as well. Like there's this podcast. It's not around anymore. It's called the Rad Dudecast. It's 3 American comedians, and no episodes are alike. They're not making episodes anymore, but like it's constant. I'm just re-listening to them all the time. If there's not a new episode or something else I'm listening to, or music, I'm like, I'll just listen to the next episode. I'm just doing like my 5th lap through this podcast. It's like not been on for like 3 or 4 years or something like that. And they do characters, they do a lot of improv on it, and then there's been characters within those episodes that they've just voiced on the spot and described. I was like, all right, I'm going to get the first Rad Dudecast tattoo. So I've got a potato chip man, and I've got a crab wrapper on my leg as well. So I've got two Rad Dudecast characters, which I guarantee nobody listening to this podcast knows what the Rad Dudecast is.
So the goal here is to get famous enough that the superhero I created, Eggman, someone gets a tattoo of Eggman.
Your Eggman tattoo. You also mentioned too on the What If It's Cool podcast.
You should be paying us for this, by the way.
Yeah,
Dan.
we're mentioning you so much that you've got an NWO Wolfpack hockey jersey that you own. So,
Yeah.
what is the most obscure piece of wrestling memorabilia that you own?
Obscure. Oh, hold on. I'll just grab something. I don't know if it's the most obscure, but
Intermission. See, this is where we need to get the tripod set up just so we can do the little audio, like
I've got a
video
couple
clips
things.
rather.
Yes.
All
got a
right.
couple of things here. So, I've been to Japan on holiday like 8 or 9 times now.
Oh, nice.
And there's this like just weird little, it's awesome. There's a little hole in the wall bar that I was walking down the street, because on this trip I was over there with my youngest daughter and my mum, so then I had a babysitter, wanted to go out for drinks. And there's this like broken guitar up against this like a doorway. I was like, that's it, random. We'll walk up to it, like a acoustic guitar. It's like, oh, some guy's like setting up just a bar, but it looks like like in America, your friend's basement, and they've got posters on the wall and weird, just board games and just shit sort of all over the place. Like messy, but clean. You know, it's not filthy or anything like that. And guy in there with a bar. So, all right, I'm going to go back to this place later, but this looks pretty cool. And like, I've made friends there for life, and we can't even speak the same language. It's like the most amazing place. And I hadn't been to Japan for a few years, and this guy, Takia, and then he's opened up his own bar somewhere else. And I met up with him, and I'm walking up the stairs, like, where the hell is this bar? Like, directions for Japanese little like businesses are so tough. And my wife's down the bottom of the stairs, and I've gone up the top, and I'm like, where is this guy? Bloody hell! And then I just heard someone, Ben-san! I turn around, he's like running up the stairs, and we just give each other a big hug. And so he's one of my friends I met at this bar, and it was like the first night I met him years ago. And he's like, oh, wrestling fan. Because I was over there this time for I've been to a bunch of wrestling shows, had a wrestling t-shirt on something as well. And he's like, oh, wrestling fan. Wait here. Like, I've known him for like 20 minutes. And he ran home. And he came back and, we've got a bunch of them down here, I think. Like all programs. He'd been to all these Wrestle Kingdoms, and he had all the thick programs from there. It's all in Japanese.
Yeah.
And he's like, he comes in and gives me this. So, you know, I've got like the little wristband thing of the Golden Lovers. And I only made so many of them.
Shout
yeah.
out.
And he gave me like the little bracelet, like the little wrist
bracelet.
Yes.
of the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. He got me like a Taka Michinoku signed like little sweat towel. He brought me a whole unopened thing of like the Okada dollars. Poster. I've got the flag of the All Together show with like All Japan, New Japan, and one of the maybe Noah and stuff like
Noah,
for the
sounds familiar.
It was one of the older All Together shows for when the tsunami,
Yes.
like 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah, just like, you know, it's not just one weird thing. He just like gave me so much stuff. And this guy at that time, I'd known him for like 20 minutes. And it's like, oh, this guy's a wrestling fan. Yeah.
Cool.
So, and it's always so sad when like I say goodbye because I'm like, I don't know how many years it'll be until I see you next time. And like, give each other a big hug or just like cry. And then my wife's like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like, I can't even talk to this guy. I can't talk to him in my language, and I can't talk to him in Japanese. I'm trying, like, yeah, it's just, yeah, Japan's very fond. I don't know how I got onto this subject, but yeah.
No,
We
that's
deep dive
awesome.
onto insight here.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I did say, like, he did say to throw some curveballs. I feel like we unlocked a hidden gem just with that little question there. So that's awesome. But yeah, as I said, you have mentioned that you're way more of a WCW guy than you were with WWF. What was it specifically that drew you into WCW? Was it just that was what was available, or was it the style per se?
That's what was available in Tasmania at midnight on a Monday for the 1 hour highlight package. Because no other wrestling was available down here unless you had like pay TV. Like I didn't have Austar or Foxtel at the time. And one day I saw in the newspaper on the TV guide, WCW Nitro, midnight on a Monday. It's like, well, I guess I've got to stay up to midnight to watch wrestling. And that's before I'd watched anything current. And it's on an 11-week delay, by the way. So everything was old as fuck by the time it was shown down here.
So that would have been, I think that actually would have been Channel 10. Because literally, as he was saying that, I just had like a weird childhood flashback. I remember it was like, it was a school night at least, so I'm probably on the same wavelength where Sting was on screen, and I knew who Sting was because my cousin had the action figure, and that was all I knew. And I was like, oh my God, it's Sting! And I was so excited, even though I didn't know who the fuck he was, just the action figure and the face paint and everything. But I remember my dad sitting up watching it. He's like, you got to go to bed. But I was like, it's Sting! And he's like, how the fuck do you know who Sting is? And I'm like trying to explain that he has like the action figure and that's a core memory unlocked just there as Doomslayer was talking.
Yeah, like the first episode of Nitro, I saw that there was like a 20-person cruiserweight battle royal that I want to say Billy Kidman or I think Billy Kidman was going to win it. Then Hugh Morris came out and just bet the fuck out of everybody. Then Rey Mysterio came out, and that's like the first time I saw Rey Mysterio, and he was doing crazy stuff. Yeah. And then I still didn't see Bret Hart for ages. This was when he was having his time off after Owen had died.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We'll switch gears back to your actual career, Doomslayer. Now, while we were talking last time on whatever it's called with the reaction and stuff like that, you were trying to tick off boxes and trying to do interstate bookings. You'd just done Wrestling Go because AWF had been cancelled and stuff. Since then, you have actually done frequently appearing with APW in Sydney for Birdman. And now, as we record this, you did just tick off Victoria. You did MXW a couple of weeks ago, and of course, you did Alpha like last night as we record this. So
yesterday at midday. Yesterday.
So are you back in Tasmania now, or are you still in Victoria?
Yeah, we flew back this morning. So our flight to Melbourne yesterday was 6:30 in the morning, and just pretty much went straight to Pipeworks Market, and then we're there until the end of we watched the second show and helped with the ring crew and that, and then went to the hotel, went to sleep, and got up this morning and got the flight at 8. Yeah, got back up at 6:30 this morning. I was up at 4:30 yesterday morning to do it. So yeah, I dragged my wife to all these shows, but she's normally quite happy to do it. It's like no more fucking Birdman shows. It's like, yeah, I told Birdman to get fucked anyway, so I'm done with that. So,
fair enough.
I've got enough Birdman stories to last me a lifetime. I don't need any more.
We'll refrain from those on this episode because we don't want to end up in the reels and whatever else. But I'm actually happy. I'm so glad because once we teed up this with you, I didn't even realise until the other day. I had a friend on from Queensland, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I've only got Tasmania and Northern Territory left. And then my wife was like, yeah, but we've got Doomslayer in the can. So technically, the only one I think I've got left to tick off for interviews is Northern Territory now. So I'm very excited about that. But what was it like finally getting to tick Victoria off the list for you? And not only that, twice in the span of a number of weeks in very, very different areas of Victoria for that matter. So what were your trips like and what was the highlight?
Well, MXW was like years ago. It was like right before they started doing their first, the proper shows. And I was messaging them back then to like, I'll come and wrestle in the shed. I don't care. Like,
I did the exact same thing. I was like, let me do commentary in the shed.
I was finally at the stage where it's like, I'm confident enough that I don't have to wrestle just in Tasmania. I can do this. And it ended up taking like 10 different promotions for me to contact before I finally got the AWF one, which ended up being Wrestling Go was the debut in the end. But it was quite a good moment. It's like finally the MXW thing finally happened, and then Melbourne itself. And yesterday was also a milestone. It was 10 different promotions in 1 year.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Well, if it makes you feel better, that's more than I got in my entire career. So
it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm handicapped as well, obviously, with being based in Tasmania. Only one of them's down here, so it's a lot harder. But
that's awesome, though, for you, man. Congrats.
It feels like a pretty big achievement for myself. An expensive one, but, it's an achievement.
Would have been vastly different experiences too, though, because obviously MXW was more it was more like the festival show, and then Pipeworks put on the actual show for last night amongst having the market shows earlier in the day. So what was the kind of what was the contrast like that for you? Like, do you prefer the festival type shows or do you prefer the one and done type shows? Because I honestly, my whatever career, if you want to call it that, I actually really did enjoy the festival shows more than the main shows sometimes, just because I thought it was fun. It was different. A lot of the time, the crowds weren't necessarily wrestling fans, so it was more of a challenge. But which do you prefer?
I think I prefer like the proper ticketed shows, especially when they know who you are, because like a festival show's its own thing where it doesn't matter if they don't know who you are, because they probably don't. A lot of people are not going to know who any of the wrestlers are or what wrestling is whatsoever. So you've got that advantage of coming in sort of on equal ground with all the locals that sort of, are already exposed to that local scene. So that's all right there. But it is good when people know who you are and they're willing to. They know what wrestling is and they're willing to play along a bit better. So I got to see that contrast yesterday with. I wrestled in the opening match for the free show for the market goers, and there was definitely people there that knew what wrestling was, and they were there specifically for that. So that was good, but they don't know who I am. It's only me just getting my foot in the in the Victorian door. So and then just sitting in the audience for the evening show. The evening show there were some rowdy people in the crowd at that one, they all knew what wrestling was, and they were well into it. So. And I'm glad I wasn't on this show because they would just be like, "Who the fuck's dude?" I still had a lot of fun.
I dare say that you'll be back in Alpha sooner than later, though. Surely.
Yeah, and I've gone so many places now that I'm seeing people that I've met in other states, so other companies in other states, or multiple states and multiple companies. It's like half the Sky was there. She's like, geez, we keep seeing each other at the weirdest places. So I first met her up at Rockhampton for War, and then at Nightfall in Deception Bay, and then now here in Melbourne yesterday. So I'm sure it's only a matter of time until I see her in Tasmania. So I don't think there's anybody I've seen in 4 states yet.
Maybe she'll be the first. Stay tuned.
I think it's a bit embarrassing, actually, because I met so many people at the FWA show and the Rumble that I did. There was 46 wrestlers at that show. And you walk around, hey, I'm Ben, hey, I'm Ben, hey, I'm Ben. And I was like, oh, God, I just shook 5 people's hands. You know which one I remember? Steve, because he's fucking tall as fuck. And there were some people yesterday. It's like, hey, I'm Ben. I was like, oh, yeah, we met at FWA. I was like, yeah, sorry. Yeah. And then, some people, it's funny, it was, you see a bunch of people around before the show and you introduce yourself to them, and then, show's getting ready to start, and then they're in costume or makeup and whatnot and face paint, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's that guy. So I had no idea. So I'm still at that stage where, we're still meeting people for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
With all that being said, I'm going to come back into our core, more generic questions, but they're still important questions. What is your favourite match of all time, both that you've had personally and that you've seen, whether that be on TV or live as a fan?
Oh, well, I know the one that I've had that's my favourite, so I'll come back to that. But favourite one that I've seen on TV will go not Kota Ibushi. Okada and Kenny Omega, the 2 out of 3 falls.
Okay, yep.
The one that went over. Was that Wrestle Kingdom or Dominion? Dominion, wasn't it? When Kenny won the title. Yeah, so that's why. I was in Japan when that show was on, unable to watch it or go to it because I had commitments and family stuff that I was doing there or whatever. And then I managed to avoid all the newsstands because they have all the wrestling magazines that come out weekly or daily or something in Japan. Managed to avoid all results, and then got home. It was the day I got home. I was like, right, I'm gonna sit down and watch this Dominion show unspoiled, and it's the most excited I've been watching wrestling on the TV. I was lucky to see in person Kenny Omega's last. I was a big Kenny Omega fan. Kenny Omega's last match in DDT before when he was signing to go to New Japan. I was at that show. It was just a random show. It was this show's on. We figured out how to get the tickets for it. And so it was the Golden Lovers, Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega having a tag match against Dunshko Dino, and I can't think for the life of me who the other opponent was. And that was just awesome fun to see that. It's not not a 5-star match in person to see, but it was great experience to see that.
See, I've
And finally, my favourite match.
I was just going to say, I've only ever seen Kenny wrestle one time, and it was in just like a random ass 10-man tag, which pissed me off because I think the other city got like a proper match with him, but it was a 10-man tag where it was like a battle of the Bullet Club. It was just before the Cody Kenny thing where it was like Cody on one side and Kenny on the other, and it was kind of Bullet Club versus Bullet Club with a couple of random dudes thrown in. But I just remember marking the fuck out for Kenny, which it still makes me mad because he's the only guy from like the core guys of the Elite that I'm yet to actually meet. He's still eluding me, but I've met everyone else.
They probably needed a rest on the tour, so we're doing a 10-man tag tonight, guys.
Phenomenal match, though. He still went above and beyond for everyone that was in the ring.
Yeah, my favourite personal match, like, I'm not sure it's my favourite match, but it's the match that was like, this is the match that I send to people to, it's like, are you any good or whatever? It's like, and it was just a few months ago, was it? TCW New Dawn. I wrestled against Dino. A losing effort, but it was, Dino's great wrestler. He's been wrestling a little bit, like a few months, maybe 6 months or something less than me. And just, he had some great ideas. We'll do this and this and the stars. I reused the end for my match at Alpha yesterday, actually. So that's how good it was. So you reuse it at different places, bits and pieces of it, sort of a bit of a structure from it. Like we're about to go out the curtain, and it was match 3, and the show was running a little bit quicker. And I like to have most things planned. Doesn't have to be like step by step of like I'll punch you 4 times and then whatnot. But it was let's say 75% sort of like planned out. And they're about to go through the curtain. The music's probably started, and one of the owners is like, "We're going a bit short. You need to add some time." So all right, I'm feeling pretty confident. So it just added all character work in at the start, and I was working his shoulder because I was meant to lose the title to him, the Northwest Championship to him at the previous show, but he'd at training he'd dislocated his shoulder, and so then he wasn't cleared to wrestle then, obviously, and then it took some time to heal up before he was wrestling again. And so we're doing this shoulder storyline. He was fine to wrestle, but just added in more stuff. I'm ripping the tape off his shoulder and I'm choking him with it and doing just having the best time. And he's such a likable baby face. I got the best heat that I've ever got. And I'm like, oh, this is the best. And then I'm just getting so into it. He's not a male. But I was like, as a heel, I'm like, grow chest hair out because I've just always shave and get a spray tan before every match. I've grown out the hair for a few months. I'm ripping up my chest hair. This is what a man looks like. And I was like, I just had the best fun. Afterwards, that was fucking awesome. I love that match.
Hell yeah.
I'm getting my steps up here. I'm like, well, I just got 10,000 steps. I'm sitting on the bed talking to you. That's how much energy I'm burning.
So my next question for you is, who is your ultimate dream opponent and what is your dream stipulation?
Oh, see, I thought you might have said something like this, who would you dream opponent and stuff. I was like, I think I've got this question in my pocket here. Maybe it's I think it's people that I was like, oh yeah, Bret Hart or something, or even I'm not gonna say Robbie Eagles or Slacks or any of these kind of people. People that I'm friends with or got some sort of relationship with, and so I fan of them. They're EVO. I want to wrestle against EVO.
Ooh,
he's such a cool guy, and I've seen him wrestle a few times now, and he just owns his count. I was talking to him about this yesterday, so I was so glad to see him 2 shows in a row. He does these bicep pose, and he comes down and does this, and he's got the wicked intro song. So I want to wrestle EVO. At the start of the year, if you see on Twitter or Facebook, people put out that list of these are all the people I want to wrestle this year, or my goals for the year. And I had EVO, I think it might have been at the top of my list. So I had a couple of TCW guys, I had EVO, I had Kaitoa. I got to tag with Kaitoa.
Oh, nice. So
that's picked one off. But, doesn't have to be any stipulation. Just want to wrestle the guy. I just want to wrestle against people that I'm friends with or that I like. It doesn't have to be this guy's the best in Australia, so I want to wrestle him. Because I'm not the best in Australia, so I don't want them to have to wrestle me.
ECW should book it. That's what all I say.
Honestly, EVO versus Jackson Thornhill in November, that could be match of the night. Honestly, they've got a very similar style. They're big, both big, beefy boys, but deceptively agile for their size. So I'm definitely, EVO is a good shout for sure.
And so that question kind of feeds into my next question a little bit. With this year quickly coming to an end, what are your goals for 2025, whether that be wrestling or otherwise?
I was thinking about what else was on the goals that I had for this year. I had unofficial goal that sort of like developed later in the year. Like I'd wrestled for 7 companies. Like I reckon I could get to 10, but I fucking only just did. So like that would turn into a goal to get 10 companies, and I had wrestled 20 matches in a year, and I'm at 27, 20, 26. I've wrestled 26 matches this year, and TCW puts on 6 or 7 shows a year. So I've gone above and beyond to try to wrestle as much as I can.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
That's pretty solid.
But you talk about goals for next year. Save some money. One goal that I didn't get to achieve, and I would have if Dino didn't fucking hurt his shoulder. I wanted to main event a TCW show, like whether it be a singles match or a tag match. I've been in a gauntlet main event. I've been in a Rumble main event. Like just because it goes on last doesn't mean it's the main event. So I want to, So me and Dino were meant to wrestle. He was meant to beat me for the Northwest title in a main event on TCW show, but that didn't happen. And I don't see myself on the main event of the next 2 shows. So that's a goal for next year. I've wrestled in a main event at AWF on one of my first interstate shows. I was like in a tag team main event. I was like, man, I haven't even done this at home. I'm doing it here. It's the first time I've been here.
Actually, I did the same. I went all the way to Queensland, and it's like, here's a main event, and then I scratched and clawed to get it in Canberra. But I guess, it's wrestling's wrestling.
When I wrestled Bruiser at Venom, I was like, okay, what have I got? And I was like, oh, you're wrestling Bruiser for the heavyweight title. I was on second last because they had the Rumble in the main event, but maybe I can convince myself
that's a double main event there. That's a double main event.
Double main event, no main event. And then at Birdman show, I wrestled Hotshot Hansel in the main, like in a singles match main event when I was Birdman is Birdman, but I got to defend a TCW title there a couple of times, so it's pretty cool.
It's kind of funny because
wrestle a TCW main event.
I didn't even plan this, but obviously this is audio. I'm currently wearing an Andy Rhodes t-shirt who just won the
new TCW champion.
Wasn't even planned. I literally just woke up and saw that he saw that he won the title, and I was like, I've got that shirt laying around here somewhere. This is a 10-year-old shirt. But I was like, hell yeah, because I was meant to get Andy on the pod a few weeks ago, but he just through health reasons and what had to reschedule. But when I saw that he won the TCW championship, literally the first thing I said to Nova was, okay, we need Andy versus Doomslayer now. I've been a fan of Andy's for 12 odd years at this point, but I just thought it was funny. But I was just like, very topical. It wasn't even intentional. I'm talking to Tasmanian wrestler. I'm wearing the champion's shirt. It wasn't even planned.
Yeah. So apart from a TCW main event, I don't really have anything that I'm really aiming at next year. We're going to England for a few weeks for a holiday, so it would be cool to wrestle international, even if it's just one match. I'll be there for 3 weekends, so there's some opportunity there. But the holiday's not about that. It's about letting my wife have fun and go to a country that she wants to go to and do all that. Give her the best 30th birthday present that she can have. So
Hell
yeah. Sorry, it's not the most exciting answer for next year.
That's why we said wrestling or otherwise. I'm like, hell yeah, spend time with your wife in another country. Why the fuck not, man?
That's goals.
One needs to get this health. Well, I'm not even allowed to fly nationally, let alone internationally. Currently, neither of us are. Yeah. So hopefully sooner than later, I'll be able to change that. But no, that's not a bad goal. Just go abroad and just recharge, spend some quality time. Why not? But we always ask a non-wrestling question to end the official interviews before we go into all the plugs and everything else, and we always try our best to tailor it to the individual specifically. And now, obviously, again, going back to What If It's Cool, Dan, send me the check. You did talk a lot about JVD and just action films in general, and you did allude earlier to you just liking foreign films and you like a bit of anime and stuff here and there. And you were talking about, like, basically your comfort film you kind of were talking about on that show. So on the flip side of that, what is Doomslayer's go-to guilty pleasure film?
Well, No True, No Surrender is very, I don't feel guilty. It's a guilty pleasure movie, but it's amazing as well. It's a very close to my heart, that movie. But guilty pleasure, maybe I'd say Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Have you heard of it?
I've heard the name, but I can't put an actor to it.
There's Ridge from Days of Our Lives. He's in it.
Okay, yep.
So there's that guy, and there's like, do you know OSW Review, Old School Wrestling Review?
Yep.
So they did an episode where they reviewed Hard Ticket to Hawaii. I knew it before they did. I know it from one of those podcasts, like 80s Picture House, which is a podcast that's been gone for over 10 years. So one of the hosts, he's the guy I stayed on his couch for a week when I went around England. And their very first ever episode, they talked about Hard Ticket to Hawaii, and it's like absolutely nuts. It's there's tits out the entire movie. There's like a giant venomous snake running amok on an island. There's gangsters. There's this most epic frisbee scene. So Ridge is on the beach, and there's a gangster down there, and he's got these mirrored sunglasses, and he's like this, and this security guy's like throwing a frisbee with this girl in a bikini, and then they go, oh, this is the security guy going there. Let's go sort him out. So Ridge goes down there. So, oh, you like to play frisbee? I'm paraphrasing, but he's prepared a frisbee that's got razor blades around the rim. And he's like, goes down there, so yeah, I'll play frisbee with you. And he throws the frisbee back and forward. And then he swaps it out for his razor blade frisbee. Then in dramatic slow motion, he throws the razor frisbee, and the guy's like, "Blah!" And there's just like blood everywhere, and the guy's in. So that's the tone that you can expect from Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
That's just giving me vibes for what's that Will Smith movie? Fucking Wild Wild West. I think it's that one where I think it's that one where it's the same thing. Like he throws like his like bowler hat, but it like decapitates like a dude or something.
Yeah,
it's like Mortal Kombat style shit with like Kung Lao with the
Kung Lao. Yeah, so I think Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Yeah, but No Retreat, No Surrender. If you haven't seen it, it must be watched. We did. Speaking of bad movies, currently for each like Halloween period for October with my wife. So 2 years ago, we did all of the Halloween franchise, Michael Myers, and plus other Halloween movies. I'd never seen any of them, so let's watch them all. Last year, we did all the Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th movies.
Yep. And
then this year, I was like, you think we'd do like Nightmare on Elm Street or something, and then there was talk of doing the Saw movies, but I've seen most of them anyway. So instead we did space. We're doing space horror. Turns out there's not a whole lot of space horror movies if you've already seen the Alien franchise. But our latest movie was Leprechaun 4 in space. Leprechaun 4 : in space. And this is fucking nuts, man. Legitimately enjoying this absolutely terrible movie. It's on Amazon Prime. If you've got Prime, it's just there free to watch. I mean, don't worry about number 1, 2, or 3. I haven't seen them, but Warwick Davis, I mean, I've never seen an actor have as much fun as this guy's had making this movie. It's insane.
I've actually just finished listening to Hornswoggle's audiobook, and obviously he was in the reboot that WWE Studios tried to do. And he spends probably about 5 or 6 minutes recapping it, and even he just buries the absolute fuck out of it, and it is the greatest thing. He's just like, I watched it, 90 minutes later, I messaged the producer, and my exact response was, what the fuck was that? And the whole time...
Did he even act in it? Or was he just in the suit? Did he speak or anything? He was
in the suit, they cut all his dialogue, you couldn't even tell it was him. His name wasn't even in the trailers, and then he tells the story, actually, he's like, Vince, why is my name not in it? And Vince's response was, no one's name in it. It just says WWE Studios presents Leprechaun. He's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then he walks out the opposite. He's like, wait, that doesn't make fucking sense. Like, someone's going to act in this movie. And yeah, it's the funniest thing just talking about it. I'm like, oh God. Because I know, again, some of the later ones of the original series, people are like, it gets a bit iffy. It can't get worse than this. And then they did that reboot. And it was just like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. I remember OSW doing an episode on the Leprechaun movie. So might need to rewatch that episode. But I haven't seen any of the movies apart from 4, just because it's a space horror movie. But it's brilliant, so that could be added into the rotation maybe.
Speaking of, though, it's not actually in space, but Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a great one. It's one of those so bad that it's good ones.
Yeah. So speaking of bad movies, right? I got roped into doing it. I was doing a podcast for a couple of years. It was like a month, one episode a month, and it was the Badly Awesome Movies podcast. I think episodes are still online if you look for it. And so it'd be like Killer Clowns from Outer Space was one of the movies that we did. So and I actually enjoyed that. Most of the movies I thought was fucking horrible, and I didn't want to do the podcast. But he needed a co-host and someone to bloody edit it. So that's what I was doing for like 2 years, I think. So.
Hell yeah. With that being said, Doomslayer, this episode will drop on October 27th. So with that being said, where can we find you on socials? Where can we get your merch? And where can we see you at upcoming shows?
Upcoming shows, so it's going to be November 2nd. I'm going to be at Nightfall. I don't know who I'm wrestling yet, but that's going to be at Deception Bay.
Well, actually, today as we record this, sorry to cut you off. Today as we record this, the episode with Reese Razel dropped today. And on that episode, he did put it out saying that on November 2nd, he challenged you to a match. Did he
really?
He did. So, so Nightfall management, make that shit happen.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll probably want to book someone before 5 days out, but obviously.
Hopefully they'll listen to the episode with Reese and put some wheels into motion.
So that's my next match coming up. I'm going to be at. So TCW has their first ever. Like it's been around for like 11 years or something now, but we have never run a show in Hobart, the capital city of Tasmania. So we're doing that November 23rd, the day after I turn 40. So it's next month.
Nice.
And then we'll have a show in December. But so for the rest of the year, I've got TCW in Hobart, TCW Launceston, and Nightfall. So I've got 3 more shows for the year. And then I don't know what my calendar is looking like yet. Next year, TCW hasn't given us the dates for next year, but on socials, on Instagram mainly, it's where the priority goes into Instagram. Facebook gets some stuff if I remember to switch my account from personal to the gimmick. But I think it's Doomslayer _PW. I believe that's my name on Instagram. So,
and tickets on sale for that TCW Hobart show.
Yeah, they are. So TCW, Google TCW Breakout at Humanitics. That'll get you there.
Yeah, well, if I find it, I'll put it in the link in the description because that's a big deal. That's one hell of a way to celebrate your 40th. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was like, I've got to have a cake. I've got to make everybody sing happy birthday, and then I'll get like thrown through a massive birthday cake. Surely. So I don't think that's happening though.
So my actual debut was my 23rd birthday. And, like, after the match, everyone sung happy birthday to me on the actual show and everything. Luckily, they edited it out of the YouTube version for whatever reason. But, hey, saves me the embarrassment.
Yeah.
But after the show, they came out with 2 sponge cakes. And literally the moment I saw 2, I thought the same thing. I was like, fuck, they're going to, like... But it was just like, no, we just wanted to make sure we had enough cake for everyone. And I was like, thank fuck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm going through one of them and people are eating the other one. Yeah, I would have thought that.
But what about merch? I know that usually you said that they can only come to shows, but have you got any online merch available at the moment?
I would have to send you the link for the thing. I can't think what I've got like an online store where it's like made to order. So I'll have to get that link for the show notes, I think. And I've got no t-shirt. I've got all my physical shirts I've got left. I keep one of everything just for myself. But yeah, I've all sold out. But it's just so expensive to get stuff made.
Oh.
You know, you got to like lay down like $400 at a time. It's like, I hope I sell all these.
Do you have anyone like, this is just ranting now and I don't want to keep you too long, but like, do you have anyone locally in Tasmania that you can go through for that stuff, or do you have to get it shipped from like Sydney and Melbourne and stuff?
I normally get mine done from there's normally a couple different stores depending if they have any supply of black shirts. Sometimes they don't, so I go to like the other one or whatever. But it normally comes from the mainland. There is a lady at my shoot job who has like a whole printing thing herself set up. So I might have to go that way just to have it locally done and stuff. But I have to come up with a new design. So my latest one. My latest one is basically the those Uncle Rico shirts.
Yes, I love those shirts.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's like that's kind of like I've got my face with the mask on, and then me with no shirt and posing and all this sort of stuff all over it. And I got them. I hit submit, pay for all that, like 30 shirts or something, and then I sat there and thought, who the fuck's gonna want to buy a shirt with my face on it 5 times? You can't walk in public with that. Like, who the hell is this guy?
It's funny, actually. I've got it's like the bootleg tee design. I've got like one my own. I don't even have my own version of that. I've literally I was so proud of it when I put it together because I originally made it up like for an 8x10, and I was like, oh fuck it, I'll chuck it on a shirt. And at the time I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I'm glad it's made to order. I think I've sold like I've sold 2 actually, and neither of them have been from myself because I was so proud of it to start off with, and then the same thing. I looked at it afterwards, and I'm like, oh god, like that's so vain.
Like you can't wear that in public. I can't like just wear my shirt in public because it's got me all over. I'm gonna look like an idiot. But I did get a couple of hoodies made up with like an older design where it just says Doomslayer. It's got like a neon sunset or whatever, and I've got like the big TCW logo on the back. So I had like 2 hoodies printed up, and they're like they get made like $55 each. And it's like, so my wife and I have one of them each that we just wear around. And like, oh, can I buy one of them? It's like, no, because they cost me $55 each, and then I need to sell them, and I can't sell them for $55. So it's like, yeah. In theory, it'd be great just to have merch just to sell.
I had that issue with my basketball jerseys. Same thing. We have Mr. and Mrs. Crossfire like jerseys. Has like the John Crossfire logo on the front, whatever. And people are like, can I get one? And I'm like, well, if like 15 of you pre-order them for like $60 or $70 each, then I can do a bulk order and you just can all have one. And they're like, oh fuck, that's a bit expensive. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if people could deposit and pre-order and stuff, but it's not so easy when you're like, give me your money and you'll get, or promise to give me some money and I'll sort something out for you.
Because I do the same, even with my hats. I had so many people go, here's the hats. And it didn't help that, like, I had health issues and I was just a commentator or a referee because who wants to buy fucking referee merch, right? But it was just like, it's taken me, like, 4 years now to get rid of the hats. I think there's 3 hats left.
Yeah. Do you know who Axel Strife is?
The name sounds familiar.
The rap man, Axel Strife. So he's come to TCW. He's from England, and he went back for a little bit, and he's back in Australia now. I think he's in New South Wales or Victoria at the moment. So he did Nightfall a couple of times. He's on Venom soon, and he's popped up all around the place. And I've met him at a Birdman show.
I think Nightfall,
like my first Birdman show,
where I saw him from on like socials and match footage.
I met him at my first one I did. I was on Birdman, then I was on Wrestling Go the next day, and he was on both shows. And then he's come down here and he's stayed at my place and stuff. And he has the best merch in the game, right? He has he buys plain white shirts and he spray paints them with his like rap logo and his like Axel Strife or whatever. And he sells those shirts. And he turns up and he's got all these like secondhand WWE figures. And he just sells them at the shows. And he made fucking bucket loads of money at the show down here. Like all the kids, yeah, we're at a wrestling show. I want to buy like all these like $8 like John Cena figures and play with them in the audience while the wrestling's on or during intermission and stuff. And like they're not TCW figures. They're just random WWE ones. But it's like, Mum, Dad, can I have this? And we're at the wrestling. So he sold a heap of them and whatever else he had. So he made off like a bandit at the end of the day. So
that's hustling right now.
That's so smart.
Yeah. It's a great idea. I'm going to fucking steal that.
Well, I keep saying that to Nova because I've been trying to sell like some DVDs and stuff from my personal collection just because, one, trying to cover medical funds, but two, I'm just trying to declutter. I'm like, I'm not going to watch these ever again. Maybe that's a trick. Next time I go to a wrestling show, I'll just come up with this box of wrestling DVDs and be like, $5 a DVD. Give me all your money.
Actually, I've just reminded myself of something. It's not truly a random bit of wrestling merchandise, but I'm just going to grab something really quick. I'll be right back in like 10 seconds.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. So I've got a one-of-a-kind wrestling action figure coming into frame here. So here we have El Hijo de Doomslayer.
Oh, that is so cool. Can you see that, Nova, from where I'm...
He's got all the tattoos.
That's cool.
That is cool.
The mask. He's got the metal chain. He's got the sleeves. He's even got the little chains hanging off the boots here. So one of the guys that comes to it's a bit dusty actually. One of the guys that comes to all the TCW shows, he makes these, and he's like, and he was secretly making this one of me and my wife, who's just my girlfriend at the time. He normally just makes them for himself for his own collection, but he's like, I want to buy that for Ben. So it was a very special gift.
That's cool.
One of a kind. Just don't play with it because it'll probably break. So.
I have a friend randomly gave me a custom. Well, it's Finn Balor now, but gave me a custom Prince Devitt demon figure, and like it's the same thing. Like it's basically like its legs are so stiff, but his arms keep like drooping, and every now and then you got to re-clip him back in from like how rough he was when trying to put it all together. But it's pretty cool to look at. That's cool though. One of a kind action figure of himself.
I can't get any more tattoos because it's going to be out of date. Well, I mean, it does have the mask on, so yeah. I
have to get an updated one without the mask, and I get the pink gear and the short, and then the short variant.
Yeah.
It's like a little Doomslayer verse.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more tan than that, so at least currently, I've still got that glow on me.
That's cool as hell. But I appreciate you jumping on, man. And I've said this to so many guests in the last, I don't even know how long, but I said to you ages ago that, hey, man, let's tee this up. And it's been months upon months at this point since that's happened. Yeah. But just health and life and everything else keeps getting in the way. But I do appreciate you jumping on and spending an hour with us here tonight on this lovely Sunday night as we record this. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I nearly forgot. I saw, I think your post with Jem earlier. I was like, shit, I got that tonight. Yep. I knew that. I was like, it's on the 13th. It's after we get back from Melbourne, and it's that night. It'll be completely fine. And then it was a few hours ago. Oh, yeah, okay.
The funny thing was, my ADHD brain misplaced my phone, and I was literally like, where the fuck's my phone? So I can message Doomslayer. And then, because Nova's obviously an admin of the page as well, she was like, oh, it's fine. I just got a notification from him on my phone. And I'm like, excellent. Message back, please. Yeah. So that was kind of creepy that we both went to message at the same time. But yeah, I appreciate you jumping on, man. And as your career continues to grow and prosper and you tick even more and more stuff off the bucket list, I can't wait to talk to you about it down the line and just keep watching your journey.
And who knows when we'll meet each other in person as well.
Hopefully sooner than later. Yeah. We are trying to tee up we have an open invitation actually from a couple of different promotions in Victoria for 2025. So dates pending and funds pending, we might cross paths in Melbourne of all places. So be a neutral ground for both of us.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you for jumping on, and I'll let you enjoy the rest of your night. But can't keep saying it over and over again. But thank you. Very appreciated.
Good meeting you too, Dana.
Yeah, see you.
No, thanks for the great questions. Thank you.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that was the one and only Doomslayer. Where did you say it was from, Novalee?
Launceston, Tasmania.
Tasmania. That is that's pretty impressive. Then, as we touched on in this conversation, that leads one state/territory, more specifically a territory. Which territory do we need to take off now?
The Northern Territory.
That was very fucking aggressive. We have one more state/territory to tick off, and I thank you very much to Doomslayer for coming on, and I had a lot of fun with him again. Cheap plug, doing the Reaction Wrestling Wednesday with him and DPC over on DPC's YouTube channel for What If It's Cool. Very fun stuff. a match from WAR in Queensland with Doomslayer versus Dick Riggs. Great match. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And as we said with Doomslayer, like we weren't sure because he's hosted podcast himself. He's been a part of so many. We didn't know like what we'd get out of this, but we went deep. We got some rants. It was great.
And another thing I wanted to touch on, that off air, we've actually realised we might have actually come face to face with Doomslayer at Roll On.
Actually, yes, I made a mental note. I should have made an actual note. We're meant to bring that up in the intro, but Richie. Doomslayer sent us a message off air, and he realised that he should have mentioned Richie versus Joel because Doomslayer was listening to our Gemstone episode. So thank you, Doomslayer, for listening to the episode. And yeah, he realised that he's like, man, that was a match I saw, and he flew there on like a day's notice. He said upon seeing the match that Richie was in, and was like, hell yeah, like let's go. Stayed with some friends in Melbourne. But yeah, I was like, I knew he looked familiar, so I must have saw him in passing. And you said
they might have been sitting behind us, I think.
But we'll have to ask Doomslayer about that if we remember with our ADHD brains. But yeah, it turns out I was like, when I did the What If It's Cool thing with him, I was like, why does he look familiar? Like I've seen him on socials, like in his wrestling and da-da-da, but there was something familiar. But I think that's what it is. We must have just met him in passing at Roll On.
Yeah.
Like it was a pretty, small venue, so chances are we probably did. But yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, shout out to that match, Richie and Joel, which we did talk about a couple of weeks ago now with Gemstone. But yeah, Doomslayer messaged us at the pod page and was like, damn it, I just remembered a match and da-da-da-da. But yeah, I think we did cross paths, and as Nova said, I think they may have even been the couple that was sitting either behind us or 2 rows behind us. But yeah, he looks really familiar, so I'll have to ask him about if he remembers roughly where he was, in the arena sort of thing or in the venue. But yeah, it was a thing apparently we've met. I didn't realise. But yeah, really enjoyed this conversation. We say it every week or every episode in this case with, doing double episodes for the month of October. Obviously, this is the last week of October when this one drops, but just really awesome conversation. I really, really did enjoy it. Just thank you to Doomslayer. Like we do it every week. We say thank you. But no, seriously, dude.
Grateful. Because what's a podcast without guests? Really?
Yeah, man.
It's just us talking amongst ourselves, and it gets boring.
And while that is great in times, obviously the crux of this podcast was Nova said that she didn't mind me rambling, but there's part of me that's like, no. I need to ramble for hours at a time, so I'm just going to sit in the living room with a microphone at midnight and try and not wake people up. And now we're doing these at a respectable hour, and I actually have a co-host that I can bounce off.
I've become the sound engineer now, just to say. I'm not just the coffee girl anymore.
2 weeks in a row, Nova, that I've made the coffee and you've set everything up.
And guess what? The Bluetooth has worked both times straight away.
Yes, this is true.
Just like to say that.
This is true. It technically did work with Doomslayer, but for some reason, it turned off when the call started, and then it turned on when the call started, but then it weirdly went off, and I don't know why. So I just I'll turn on again, off again trick. But yes, as we record this, the couple that we've just gotten in the can for future weeks, next week actually we've got James Marshall and Johnny the Joker. The Johnny the Joker one is the one that you set up for, and then Freya Free will be the week after that. But yeah, those are the two you're talking about where it's all done and it's all doing this. But yeah, as we record this intro, it's all been done and whatever. So fuck me, I guess I'll just be the coffee bitch from now on because things seem to run smooth. But no, we're ranting. I don't want to take too long here. But no, thank you again to Doomslayer. Nova, if you'd like to recap the song and match of the week, I'll hit the plugs for the upcoming events and then all the socials and try and get out of here before we bore everyone out of their minds.
Alrighty. So, your song of the week for episode 133 again was Detroit Rock City by Kiss, and your match of the week was Team WCW versus NWO Wolfpack versus NWO Hollywood War Games match, WCW Full Brawl 1998.
That may be the most
That was smooth.
detailed match of the week that I've given you so far.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even intentional,
And I didn't butcher it up.
but we try and get all the info in there just so that we don't, double up on matches. And I'm still pissed off that we doubled up on that WrestleMania 19 match. And that was like 30 episodes ago.
So it was a fucking amazing match. So nice we had to do it twice. That's all I'm going to say.
Actually, it's probably been close to 40 episodes ago now, and it still bugs me.
But so nice we had to do it twice.
I got a list here, and I still fucked it up. Now Nova has access to said list.
I do. I make sure we run smoothly now. I'm the admin around here.
Someone's got to do it.
I wear all the hats.
My laptop just flashed as we were recording this intro saying it was dying, so I'm hoping that ding didn't pick it up. It probably did, but this is all one take. We're professionals around here, but yeah. Upcoming events. Night 4 Wrestling, Seek and Destroy, November 2nd. Link in the description, up in Queensland. Doomslayer will be a part of that event. And then for us, Extreme Capital Wrestling, a Hard Day's Fight, November 23rd at the Australian Croatian Club in the ACT. ECW's third show of the year, third show ever. Can't wait to see what 2025 brings. Cannot wait to be back on commentary for that. Nova Lee cannot wait to resume her re-announcing stuff and possibly, I think you're actually hoping to be able to do colour commentary now with all
I'm
the
actually excited to.
and stuff.
So I hope so, because Andy Coyne gave me some pretty good advice.
As did Jamstone, the
So did Jam.
Yes.
So did
And
Jam.
obviously MXW All for One, number 2. All for 1, 2, all for 2, all 2, 1. I don't know, all
3,
for 1,
2,
2.
1, boom.
November 30th in Geelong, Victoria.
What was that?
Lickets in the Tinks. Tickets in the links. My God, one take, what are words? Buy the t-shirt.
Pygmy Latin what?
The All for One Rumble will be to earn a shot next time they're back in Geelong, which was just announced for a doubleheader WrestleFest 2, February 28th, March 1st. One of those 2 nights, the winner of this Rumble will get a shot at that aforementioned event. Mm-hmm. And of course, the main event, Bobby Fish versus the aforementioned Richie Taylor. That we say it every week, but I've been like very open. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Bobby Fish as like a wrestling character or whatever else. Like, he's just never really gravitated towards me. But you'd be foolish to say that he's not a phenomenal professional wrestler. And the match that these two guys are going to have is going to be, it's going to be chef's kiss, right? Like, we haven't really, like, it's only last couple of episodes where we've brought that back. But if any match deserves to bring that back, it's that one.
It's just making me mark out back to roll on again. Richie fucking Taylor.
Roll on.
So good.
Phenomenal event. But yeah, lots of stuff coming up. And then, of course, our links contain the socials. Mine specifically have the Amazon wish list, which, as we mentioned in the previous episode, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one isn't on there anymore. And it's not because it's been bought, but you have to be logged in specifically on the American version, which is annoying because it does ship to Australia, but it doesn't show up on the Australian version. It's weird. I don't know why. Anyway, but yeah, somehow, someway, I'll get Nova Lee her Ninja Turtles pizza cutter.
It'll happen.
But yeah, the GoFundMe is there. GoFundMe is there. As I always say, I'm not going to beg, but I do bring it up. If it's there, it's there. If you got a spare $5, fuck it, I'll take it. And speaking of $5, Nova Lee, the Patreon early access is as low as
$5, obviously.
Yes. $5 Australian, $3 US for our early access tier. Every tier gets you early access, obviously, because they build and build and build. But get early access 2 days early to these episodes for as little as $5.
So good.
And then we have the $10 tier, $15 tier, and a $20 tier. We have the Rogue tier is the $5 tier. Essential tier is $10. Real Main Event is $15. And of course, my top tier, my $20 tier is called
the Supernova tier. Supernova Baby.
Supernova Baby. I'm still petitioning for Forever Damned
Forever
to add
Damned.
that to
Add
Spotify.
that to Spotify, please. I need it for an entrance, maybe someday. I don't know.
And speaking of that, at Crossfire_graphics, who usually dabbles in posters and flyers and the occasional logo here and there, actually made pretty fucking sick pro bono, mind you. I guess that's what happens when you have connections. pretty sick entrance video for that Nova Lee entrance video. I'm pretty proud of that, honestly. It's probably the best entrance video that I've made, and I slapped it together in like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Like
it was pretty
It
solid.
was just like boom, boom, boom. I was feeling the music. We were traveling at the time.
I was going to say, weren't we on a train
I was
as
like,
well?
watch this. And you're like, that's fucking sick. So, it was a good 40, 50 minutes, maybe an hour all up. So, but, it was a good hour to kill in that 8-hour train ride that we were on for that specific eye appointment trip. But yeah, everything's there. But yeah,
Linktrees are all there.
Linktree, Amazon
all the
wishlist,
jazz.
pro wrestling tees. Fucking
You know how this goes.
Shamalama. Shamalama ding dong, or whatever it is the kids are saying these days. I don't know.
Titty sprinkles.
I don't know why I keep saying
What
that.
a word.
It's just, it's there. Thank you, Doomslayer. Let's keep this under an hour and a half. We've been doing this outro for like...
Sorry for the rant.
This outro's been going for like 6 minutes. We need to...
We need to wrap this up, people. Professionals over here.
I am the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
Make sure you check out all the links you were just caught.
In conversation, shakalaka.
And since you brought it up, titty sprinkles.